Seahawks Today, powered by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. Appreciate you joining us. On today's show, we are going to give you a Seahawks free agency update in just a few moments. Also, later on, we will look at the latest ESPN mock draft for the Seahawks from Mel Kiper Jr. and Todd McShay. But let's go ahead and get started with the latest from Seattle, as they had a visitor on Tuesday. Damontae Kazee from the Dallas Cowboys, who spent this past season there, is a unrestricted free agent, still unsigned at this point in time. And if you look at this Seattle team right now, they are evaluating their defensive back options before the draft. Really good duo in that safety core with Jamal Adams and Quandre Diggs, but some holes to fill when it comes to those cornerback spots. Kazee would provide some stability and potentially allow you to move around Jamal Adams a bit. Maybe have him play some linebacker potentially with this scheme that we're seeing brought into Seattle on the defensive side of the ball. Kazee last year started almost every game for the Dallas Cowboys. He has 12 interceptions throughout his career. And if you look at this depth chart right now for Seattle, you can see that the strength is there, that you move Adams around potentially, you put Kazee there, and you could do some different things that you wouldn't be able to otherwise. The Seahawks, I would say their strength is their safety positions, and this would only make those safety spots better if they give Kazee a deal. Now, I'm a little surprised that he still remains a free agent at this point in time. He's coming off a pretty decent season last year in Dallas with 2 interceptions and 52 tackles, but you look at the cap situation for the Seahawks as well. Not a whole lot of money to spend either heading into the NFL draft next week, and it hasn't been a very active free agent offseason for the Seahawks at this point. So this could be a good signing for the Seahawks if they get their hands on him when it's all said and done. What do you guys think? Should Seattle sign Kazee or anyone else in free agency? Now's your chance to weigh in and let us know. You can comment, and we'll have the ad break here in just a second. As that ad is rolling, get those comments in and let us know if you think Seattle should sign anyone else here in free agency. Coming up now, we will talk about the mock draft from ESPN from Mel Kiper Jr. and Todd McShay, as the Seahawks have 4 picks in the first 3 rounds of the draft, and that first pick comes at number 9 overall. So we'll go ahead and look at the first 8 picks leading into the Seahawks pick at number 9 of this combined mock draft from both Kiper and McShay working together on this. Here's the first 8 picks of the draft at this point before the Seahawks pick. You can see edge rushers galore in those first top 3 picks. The first quarterback comes off the board at 6 with Malik Willis, and right before Seattle picks at the number 9 spot, Garrett Wilson is the first receiver off the board at number 8 by the Atlanta Falcons. So we will reveal the Seahawks pick in just a moment at number 9, but we want to hear from you guys. With just over a week to go to the draft, I know that there's some names that you guys are watching for, and we've been talking about this for weeks on end since the Russell Wilson trade of what the Seahawks should do. Now's your chance to weigh in. Tell us what you think. Who should the Seahawks pick at number 9 overall? Tell us in the comments below who that guy should be for the Seahawks at that number 9 spot. A top 10 pick doesn't happen very often in Seattle. A big pick that John Schneider and Pete Carroll have to get right. What do you guys think? Let us know here on Seahawks Today. So the best available at number 9, here's some options for the Seahawks here. They include Evan Neal, the offensive tackle from Alabama, who we've talked about a lot on this program, especially within the last couple of weeks. Derek Stingley Jr., the cornerback from LSU, possibility. Charles Cross, who was the unanimous choice about 3 weeks ago, but he's slipped on some boards as of late. Trent McDuffie, the local product from Washington, an option for the Seahawks. And then what many think is the best quarterback in this draft, Kenny Pickett, would also be available in this mock draft. Ultimately, the powers that be, McShay and Kiper, for the Seahawks picked Evan Neal from Alabama. And Evan Neal is just a behemoth, folks. 6'7", 350 pounds, moves about 50 pounds lighter than he actually weighs, and he was pretty good in his time at Alabama playing left and right tackle and not allowing a lot of contact to the quarterbacks he was protecting. The pick was made by Todd McShay. Here's what he had to say about Evan Neal. Sure, quarterback is a possibility with Kenny Pickett on the board there, but with Dwayne Brown's spot at left tackle vacant and Neal falling, the Seahawks need to make this happen. It doesn't matter if it's Drew Lock or someone else. Whoever starts under center will struggle if they can't stay upright. And it's interesting to me, guys, that within the last couple of weeks, with where Evan Neal's stock has fallen, this seems more and more likely by the day. A couple of weeks ago, this seemed like a pipe dream of sorts. The idea of Evan Neal potentially playing in Seattle, that a guy this good would end up all the way falling at 9. But as the days have gone by, it's starting to sink in that Evan Neal could be a member of the Seattle Seahawks when it's all said and done, and I think it would be a great pick for the Seahawks. If Evan Neal is still around, he could be a monumental piece for this franchise for years to come. I like him better than Charles Cross. To me, I think he's the best offensive tackle in this draft. But they don't pay me to make those decisions. But ultimately, if they do end up with Evan Neal at that spot, I think that'd be a good pick. Speaking of the NFL draft, right here on Chat Sports, we're going to have the draft covered. All 7 rounds, every pick on our main channel. That's youtube.com/chatsportstv. Tom Downey and the entire gang are going to have you covered. They're going to break down every single pick. You don't have to worry about sitting through some interviews of players you don't care about. You're going to hear about every single player in this draft, thanks to our great team here at Chat Sports, the #1 most watched draft show on the internet. That's a fact. Live on YouTube as well as Rumble, April 28th through 30th. That's next weekend. All 7 rounds, 3 days in a row. YouTube.com/ChatSportsTV for more there. All right, let's look at the last 5 picks leading to the second round for the Seahawks. They have 2 picks in the second round, 40 and 41. And you can see there the Jets make a couple moves, a couple running backs come off the board as well with Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker III before the Seahawks pick at 40 and 41. Now, the options for the Seahawks include a quarterback still available in Matt Corral, Quay Walker from Georgia, an inside linebacker, which potentially could replace Bobby Wagner, available as well. Tyler Smith from Tulsa is another option as well. And then another local product, Kyler Gordon, the cornerback from Washington, along with Travis Jones there. Now, with these 2 picks, one of them's got to be a quarterback, you would assume, and of course it is. Matt Corral comes off the board for the Seahawks with the 40th pick. And Matt Corral was an all-SEC player last year, second team. Quite the athlete, a true dual-threat quarterback to the term. And if you look at the evaluation from Mel Kiper, here's what he had to say. Kiper makes the pick this time for the Seahawks. He said, I just don't see Seattle going into the season with only Drew Lock and Geno Smith. Corral has a quick release, but he will need time to adjust to running an NFL-level offense. And, you know, guys, personally, I think that if it were prior to the injury in the Sugar Bowl, Matt Corral would be, without a doubt, the #1 quarterback in this draft. And to me, I don't waver on the fact that he suffered that injury in that bowl game against Baylor. I think that he can recover from that. To me, I think Matt Corral still has the potential to be the best quarterback in this draft. He's very accurate. He's a dual-threat guy, and he was in a really good system under Jeff Lebby and Lane Kiffin there at Ole Miss. I would go with Matt Corral. I think this is a very smart, a safe pick for the Seahawks if they end up with Matt Corral. A good value. I think he's a top 15 talent. You find him in the second round there, you got to feel pretty good about yourselves at that spot. So I like the pick from Mel Kiper. The next pick for the Seahawks, according to Kiper and McShay, is Quay Walker from Georgia, an All-American last year. Second-teamer, won a national championship at Georgia. And all I had to tell you was that he went to Georgia and played defense. And all of a sudden you're excited, right? Well, here's the evaluation from Todd McShay and why he went with Quay Walker at this spot. Let's not sleep on what Walker could do in the Seahawks defense. I like the idea of teaming the hard-hitting Walker with Jordan Brooks on the second level. Now, as good as Walker is, there's still a lot of raw things going on with his game. He still needs to develop a bit, but the potential is there for Walker to be, I think, a Pro Bowl caliber linebacker in this league. I really do. I think that's a possibility here. It's going to take time. It won't happen overnight, but I think there is potential there for Walker to be a Pro Bowl player. That's what you're going to find potentially with Walker with that number 41 pick. I like this pick for the Seahawks made there by Todd McShay. Now, we will have more of our draft coverage from ESPN in just a few moments. But before we do, I want to make sure you're subscribed to Seahawks Today. The easiest way to do so, youtube.com/Seahawks TV. And you're going to get notified if you turn on those notifications every time we have a video on the channel, which is every day. So you can be the first to see all the latest Seahawks news and rumors. We're going to have you covered throughout the rest of the offseason leading into week 1 in September. Every angle will be covered here on Seahawks Today, and you got to be an award-winning subscriber to get the latest Seahawks news and rumors right here from Chat Sports. All right, we'll move to the third round now. Here's the last 5 picks made leading into the Seahawks pick. You can see some quality players still picked up in the third round, and that leads to the best available for the Seahawks at 72. Some notable names that went to some big-time schools. Perion Winfrey, really good player at Oklahoma over the last few years. Tariq Woolen from UTSA, very good player available there. As you can see, pretty good cornerbacks and defensive tackles. In a defensive-heavy draft where we've talked a lot about defensive players, you can see firsthand the depth of defensive players carries over to the third round. Ultimately, this pick for the Seahawks at 72 has them going with Amari Barno from Virginia Tech. He was an all-ACC honorable mention player in 2020. Long-limbed, has explosive traits. Mel Kiper made the pick in this mock draft. Here is what Mel had to say. The speed is just phenomenal, folks. Listen to this. Barno was a workout warrior at the Combine, running a 4.36 40. That's a linebacker running that speed, folks. That's unreal. Here's more. At 6'5", 246 pounds. Woo! He also led all edge rushers there with a 10-foot, 11-inch broad jump. Seattle has to add front 7 talent in this draft. And you know what? He's absolutely right. Mel Kiper is that Seattle has to get this right, that they have to add these edge rushers and get some help on that front 7. So here's your chance, guys. Grade the pick, all the picks from Mel Kiper and Todd McShay. A, B, C, D, or F. Let us know in the comments below what you think, how they did for the Seahawks with these 4 picks in the first 3 rounds of the draft. Now, I look at what Barno is capable of. That speed, you can't teach speed. And the numbers weren't that great for Barno throughout his career, but there is potential. And for me, I don't like drafting potential in those first 2 rounds, but from 3 on, those are when you take those science experiments, those projects of sorts. Barno is a science experiment here, and I like the chances of what Barno could be as far as a science experiment goes for the Seahawks. So you look at the picks for the Seahawks, who they ended up with, according to Kiper and McShay. Evan Neal with that first pick, number 9 overall. Matt Corral, the Ole Miss quarterback, at number 40. 41 was Quay Walker from Georgia, and then we rounded out the final pick for the Seahawks in the third round with Amari Barno from Virginia Tech. So I got to ask you guys, what is your one-word reaction to Mel Kiper and Todd McShay's mock draft? How would you evaluate this? What would be your thoughts on how that they did with these 4 picks? And for my reaction, well, I would say it was solid. Was it a barn burner? Was it something that was higher than expectations? No. Was it bad? No, not either. Could have been better? Yes. But it was solid. I'll take that. I would give a passing grade to Todd McShay and Mel Kiper for this mock draft. I think Seahawks fans would be pretty pleased if this is what they end up with for the first 3 rounds with their first 4 picks.